Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Football Fandemic, where we are talking playoff-bound teams. We are heading into the last week of the regular season. We're going to look at who's in and who's out, all here on the Football Fandemic. All right, guys, like I said in the intro, this is the week. This is the big week that you get to this point and usually you have a really good idea, but you know what? There's some teams that have clinched. But I was looking at that NFC picture. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous the number of teams that could still be in. I know that some of those scenarios are very unlikely, but some of those teams that could still be in or be out, it's just crazy. We're going to talk a little bit about some of that, but before we do, we're going to hit some of the news from the NFL from this week. I don't know that there's anything huge. Panthers owner David Tepper was at the Jacksonville game last week when Jacksonville beat them, unfortunately, shut them out, right? I believe they didn't even, I don't know if they scored or not, but I know that the Panthers owner accidentally spilled his beer all over some Jaguars fans and therefore was charged $300,000 from the NFL for splashing those Jaguar fans with his drink.
Now, where does that money go? Does it just go to the NFL? Does it go to the
fans? I didn't think of that until now.
It just gets split among the 32, so he'll get a 32nd of that back, maybe.
There we go.
I don't know if you guys have. This is kind of, I guess, it's kind of somewhat funny. I don't know if you guys have seen any memes about this, but in the comments or whatnot. But there's been people in the comments, of course, jokingly, and I really hope nobody's serious about this, but saying like, if this was me, this would be me, and it's a picture of a guy with like a neck cast on, and he's like seriously injured, so he's like, I'm gonna sue David Tepper and be injured so he can.
The beer hit him so hard, he's like, oh my neck. Yeah. Oh, David Tepper. He's got to find his legs yet in the NFL. I think it was Josh that said now that Dan Snyder's out, he's the worst owner in the NFL. That's quick. You're ready on that one.
Yeah.
At least you're not saying Jim Irsay and like.
Jim Irsay's up there, honestly. In a lot of people's mind, but for me, at least.
I think Jim Irsay's a good owner.
Not mine. A lot of people's mind, and it's probably just like stuff to do with the whole. I don't know what it was. I think it was like the sexual allegations, right, or something like that like a couple months ago. What was it? But a lot of that stuff. But overall, just
not sexual. Nothing sexual.
Well, okay.
He was saying some stuff about like they had a woman who helped care for them who was a woman of color, and he made some comments, so there was some stuff about that.
Yeah.
Then they always go back to the pills, but overall, he's a good owner.
Yeah, I think a lot of people trash on him also because of the like how he promotes things like on his Twitter or whatever. He's like, and how he speaks his mind. We know about Dan Snyder, which respectfully, but honestly, he's a really good guy with what he donates to. What was it like trying to save that whale from like the aquarium to the ocean or whatever? And
I wish he would have sent me that same money since the whale died anyway. I could have used that money.
You're the one that called back and you're like, yeah, I'm not the right Matthew Thomas to that 50-50 raffle.
The Colts called me for a raffle, said I could have won $5 million, but I wasn't the one who entered that. I never entered any raffle. I would take it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. Anyway, yeah, I think Jim Irsay, he does talk a little more than he should on Twitter. But he also, for the league, I think sometimes says the thing that the league once said. I think that was the whole Dan Snyder thing. I think the league wanted somebody to say this about Dan Snyder, and they're like, Jim Irsay will do it. He'll do anything. So it's like the Mikey and the Life cereal. What else we got here? Jets and Dalvin Cook mutually part ways. Dalvin Cook was only there this year, right? This was.
Yeah.
He was there, and they parted ways, and they parted ways like now. So he could like actually join a team right now before the playoffs? Is that correct?
Right?
Whoever he's on waivers right now, so whoever waiver priority wise, whatever. We all know this because of fantasy reasons, but whoever signs him who is with the worst waiver priority or whatever gets him, so he could sign with the playoff team right now.
He could get through waivers, but if somebody actually picks him up on waivers, they have to play him this next week, right?
No, they can just like he's a backup or whatever. He could be that.
But he has to be on the 53-man roster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
You know what
There's
would be
that.
entertaining there? This
What?
is what would be entertaining there. Buffalo picks him up, and we have brothers in the backfield.
James and Dalvin, or yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And his former teammate, Stephon Diggs,
Mhm.
out wide.
look at that. Too bad it wouldn't be one of those cases where Russ Wilson, who's been benched, we'll talk about that in a minute. Russell Wilson was thrown to him because then you could say, let's let everybody cook. Because cook, never mind.
Oh, yeah.
It
Good
was
one,
bad.
Matthew. Good one.
It was a bad one. Let's move on. Hall of Fame finalists were revealed. Surprises on there, guys. I know we've got time to go through this all more later, but like surprises seeing the list.
I'll just give you. There's like 10 names here, so I'll give you the names. You guys say. I guess you might not know them, but you guys say is they're deserving or not. Just a quick yes or no, basically. Eric Allen played in the 80s and 90s for the Eagles, basically mostly.
Didn't really know him that much.
Brandon, I know you know this guy, Jared Allen.
I do know Jared Allen. Yes.
He was
A
a
bit too
Viking
well.
guy, right?
Yep. Does he deserve to be in? Yes or no?
Did you say yes? You froze up on us
Yes.
just a little bit.
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
I do agree.
Yeah.
Willie Anderson, tackle for the Bengals in the 60s or the 90s and 2000s. I'd say I don't know. It's kind of a tough one for me. I know we know this one. He actually played for the Packers for a year. Jari Evans, mostly for the Saints, a guard, but played for the Packers in 2017. That's a tough one for me also. But with the other names on this list, I'd say no. I know Matthew knows this one. We all know this one. Dwight Freeney.
Dwight Freeney, he should get in.
He should get in. We all know this one too. Antonio Gates. He should get in. First ballot Hall of Famer.
Antonio Gates actually
Yes.
very
Yes.
very good tight end.
Yeah.
He should get in. I think Dwight Freeney should get in. I don't know if he will get in this
So right now we
year.
have between
Sometime.
us, we have 3 yeses. Jared Allen, we have 2 spots left to pick a yes from. So we have Jared Allen, Dwight Freeney, and Antonio Gates. All I believe are deserving of the guys we've already mentioned. Rodney Harrison, a very big name of controversy. He's in some people's mind he's either very good or some people's mind he's Hall of Fame worthy. In my mind, he's just very good and he doesn't deserve to be in.
I'm going to go with that. Good
Yep.
guy, good,
Good
but
player.
not Hall of Fame
like,
yet.
The people say Hall of Very Good is what they say. Next one, Devin Hester. I think it's his time, honestly. If you're
I
the
think
best at
he's-
your position all time, then you're in. Yeah. So we have 1 spot left, and I'll go
Come
down
on,
the
Reggie Wayne. I'm just going to say it before I hear any of the
Yep.
other names.
Reggie
Reggie
Wayne.
Wayne needs.
That's a tough one
Reggie
for me.
Wayne might
Look.
need to be in before Dwight Freeney. I'm just saying.
Okay, I do agree with that, but the rest of the names, and if it came down to it, and we're picking Dwight Freeney over Reggie Wayne, I'm gonna pick another guy over Reggie Wayne, and I'm sorry, but the names and I'll tell you that guy's name in a minute. But the names remaining are Torrey Holt, very deserving, maybe not time yet. Andre Johnson, very deserving, maybe not time yet. Julius Peppers, very deserving, and I think he gets over Reggie Wayne if we're picking these 5, honestly. Fred Taylor, maybe just Hall of Very Good. He's borderline for me. Hall of Very Good, Hall of, it's debatable for me. Fred Taylor, Reggie Wayne, deserving, maybe not yet. Patrick Willis, maybe. I don't know. He played a short career, but so did Calvin Johnson. So he's up in the air for me. And then Darren Woodson, safety for the Cowboys in the 90s and early 2000s. I think he's going to get in at some point, but just not yet. So I think my 5, if I had to pick from this list, not counting, the senior finalists or whatever, the old guys, the guys that fell out or whatever, I'll have to go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take Jared Allen off. I'm going Freeney. I'm going Pester. I'm going Gates. I'm going Peppers. And I'm going Reggie Wayne because I don't think there's a scenario where they pick 3 defensive ends in 1 year.
I could see that. I could go with that list. I could go with that list. There was some people that did not make the final cut.
I was very surprised about it. Steve Smith didn't make it. I was really upset about that.
Steve Smith Jr. or Senior. Yeah.
Yep. There's probably a lot of comments, honestly, that
There was somebody else that surprised me. I was like,
London
they
Fletcher.
didn't even.
Personally, for me, London Fletcher played up to par every single year, never missed a game. He played up to par with Ray Lewis. I really think he deserved to make that. Look, I'm gonna hopefully I could find these names real quick.
Robert Mathis made
he
the
did.
finalist list last year, but didn't make it this year.
I would
right?
put him. I personally would put him over Dwight Freeney, and not because they're both one's better than the other, but because, personally, they both complemented each other on one side. If one's not getting the sack, the other one's definitely getting it. But for me, Robert Mathis is like the leader in all-time fumbles forced, I believe. So for him to be a leader in a statistic and Hall of Fame worthy, I believe that puts him in over Dwight Freeney, in my opinion. I don't know what you think of that, Matthew, as the Colts fan, but that's what my mindset is.
Dwight Freeney was there first, and like maybe just a year first. I can't remember.
Like 2002, 2003, yeah.
But I think Mathis had like the success he had early because teams were so afraid of Dwight Freeney, and it was just like they had to end up choosing their poison because both were so good.
Nobody had two good tackles on both sides. Every
Dwight Freeney was like in the lead for a long time. I don't know where he ended up.
Wow.
Robert Mathis went longer with the Colts. Dwight Freeney ended up going to
Dwight
somewhere
Freeney
else.
left in 2012 for the Chargers, then the Cardinals, Falcons, Seahawks, Saints. He's a 3-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. Mathis is a 2-time All-Pro. Both these All-Pros are first team. And then it's 5-time Pro Bowler. Mathis has 2.5 sacks less than Freeney at 123 to 125. Forced fumbles is 54 for Mathis, 47 for Freeney, and then 17 fumble recovers for Mathis, 4 for Freeney. And then tackles is 332 for Freeney, 538 for Mathis. So I believe those fumbles and those tackles really separate Mathis from Freeney. And so we mentioned the guys that were semifinalists that didn't make it to the finalist list. Well, I'll just go down them. There's only 10 of them. I'll go down really quick. You say if they should have made it over. You don't have to say over who. You just have to say if you think they should have made it over somebody, basically. So Tiki Barber was one of them. Should he made a finalist list? I don't think so.
Nah.
Anquan Bolden in a stacked wide receiver class. I believe
Anquan Bolden.
I believe he can at some point.
He was always underrated in my opinion. He was just like super. It's because he played with Fitzgerald, you know.
Exactly, and he always played with bad quarterbacks until Flacco. So I don't think he's deserving over anybody on the list for the finalists, but I do think he'll get in at some point. He has the stats and he has the accolades. London Fletcher, my personal opinion as a homer, he played for the Redskins for 6 years, never missed a game, has stats identical to Ray Lewis, and people agree with me. He's like that Zach Thomas of last year, where Zach, the Dolphins linebacker, where he was like, people are wondering why he's not in yet. And this is for me, I just think he should have been in over a couple of those guys. If you played London Fletcher, you watch him play, you know about him. Eddie George, running back, Titans. I don't see it honestly. He had a very high peak, but he never had that longevity for me. I don't think he should have made it over these guys. James Harrison is a very tough one. I mean, he had the accolades and the stats, but honestly, he's not better than Freeney. He's not better than Mathis, and he's not better than Jared Allen. So I think he's deserving to be off. Steve Smith Sr., we already talked about. He should have been in over one of these guys in the finalist list. I'm not sure who. And a very controversial one, in my opinion, Hines Ward, one of the best run blocking wide receivers in the NFL of all time. One of the most prolific wide receivers, catching and whatnot of all time. Should he have made the finalist list?
I don't know. He was good.
He's tough, yeah. I mean,
he had just such a different kind of wide receiver makeup, than a lot of wide receivers.
Every year, though, the problem with this, every year is there's going to be like 8 to 10 wide receivers in the semifinalist to finalist list. It's
just going to get harder and harder.
It's just going to get harder for these guys. So
that's why I want Reggie Wayne to get in now.
Yeah, or Steve Smith, which he didn't get in, but I think Steve Smith deserves it at some point. And then the last few guys, Ricky Waters, I think he deserves to be off. And then Vince Wilfork, I think his time may be coming, but I just don't think it's now. So that is the semifinalists we just talked about, and then the finalists, the last 10 before they pick in February at the honors that we went over the Hall of Fame people.
Yeah. So Hall of Fame, we'll have more time to talk about them. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting conversation to be had.
We'll predict our final 10 or final 5 or whatever, whenever we in February when the NFL honors before the Super Bowl comes out.
There you go. I think that sounds good. I alluded to this earlier, but the kitchen has been closed. Russell Wilson is no longer cooking. They have benched him for the last 3 games of the season. And it's a big controversy because he came out and said, they approached me in October and said, hey, listen, restructure your injury contract for next year. Because if he gets injured, he gets $37 extra million on top of the $39 million he's going to make anyway, which is a huge, I don't know exactly how that all works, but they said that. He said no. They benched him now at this point in the season because they are eliminated from the playoffs, right? They're eliminated.
They were not at the time. They just got eliminated this week, which either way, even if they won, they did win. But even if they, Russell Wilson played out of his mind, they still would have made it because the Chiefs won and the Steelers won. So either way, they're eliminated. But I don't see why this is a plausible thing. Okay, he's tied up for a long contract, but that is not Russell Wilson's fault. They offered him the contract. Hey, with all the clauses, hey, the non-injury clause or whatever, this money, this 5-year extension, whatever. That is on the Denver Broncos management, GM, and ownership. That is, and for Sean Payton to go under them and say, hey, we're going to bench this guy because he's not willing to take any less or take his injury clause off or whatever. Why would he? That is your fault for putting that clause on there for him to be able to agree to that. I don't
But
understand.
they're also
this.
allowed to bench him.
There
right?
is also
They're allowed to
exactly.
make that decision.
And for people to to put up, I get it, but he's putting up great numbers for what he did last year. He's 3,000 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. That's playing better than a lot of quarterbacks. To put the blame fully on him for what the defense has done for not being able to, I guess, step up to offenses that they're playing and get them a better record or keep the offense from scoring or whatever. That is not on him. And for people to blame him for saying he's the reason this team sucks is a terrible take.
But is he as good as Jared Stidham? Is that who's taking his
Not at all.
place?
He's way better.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree with that. That was almost
And
a joke.
as much as people crap on Russell Wilson for doing these like Subway commercials or these memes or whatever, he has been very, I don't know what the right word is, but he's been very I guess humble about it this whole time. I think he was like warned, I guess if you want to say warned in like mid-October, hey, can you restructure your contract or whatever? And he said, no, I'm going to keep playing. And he took that humbly. He didn't take it on anybody else to go to the media, didn't take it on his teammates. He played the best he could, and they still came at him and benched him. And he's,
You know what this sounds like, Josh? This sounds like, I think there was a team called the Washington Commanders that were really in on Russell Wilson, and they do not seem like they're in on Howell. Everybody's been like, Howell, no, as far as the media and, they're, I think they benched him, Howell, right? And maybe Russell Wilson's coming to
in a minute because that is as controversial as Russell Wilson being benched. So we'll talk about that when we talk about our Week 17 review.
I'm just saying, maybe Russell Wilson's coming your way next year.
We'll let
maybe. I don't know if I would want that. What do we got here? The Broncos' current owner and GM did not sign Russell Wilson to this contract. The old group did. That is something.
That might be right. That is right.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is, I think I saw somewhere Russell Wilson got 120 some million for winning them 11 games. So he didn't do horribly. Him and his wife can go out and do all kinds of little promotions and vacations and stuff on that money, and he'll happily go to the next place that'll take him. I don't think he's in any trouble. But
and you know who's going to need a decent quarterback next season?
Atlanta.
The Raiders.
Well, that too.
There are lots of teams.
Division.
There are lots of teams that need a decent quarterback next year. I could go through and just start naming people, and I'm sure we will do that at some point. Rams, on the other hand, they had Matthew Stafford last year who was hurt. They did not look good at all. And then he came back this year and began to get into a rhythm. They made the playoffs. They have clinched their spot. And now because of that, they are going to rest Stafford and play who?
My favorite quarterback.
Carson Wentz.
Carson
Wentz is back at the NFL helm of a team, calling some plays and doing some crazy. I look for a left-handed shovel pass on the 2-yard line. That's just what I'm going to be watching for, but we'll see. Who knows? Carson Wentz may get himself a gig somewhere.
And he's going up against another favorite
Sam
quarterback
Darnold.
of ours,
Yeah.
Sam Darnold. What a matchup.
What a matchup.
That's Sunday Night Football worthy, but it's not. But
those were the both quarterbacks that the Colts were entertaining ideas of, and of course we took Carson Wentz and we didn't take Sam Darnold. I wish we would have never had either.
Before we transition into our weekly review, oh, sorry, Brandon, you can go ahead.
Yeah, Josh, what are the odds that the Rams play the Eagles, and if Stafford gets injured, Carson Wentz goes and plays the Eagles?
Let's figure that out right now. I just have to pull it up.
There's the other matchup I would love to see.
While we're doing this, we are in week 17, so
we hit a pause here. Everybody's waiting for somebody. What would you love to see, Brandon?
Another thing I'd love to see, talking about old quarterbacks going into their previous stadiums, is Joe Flacco going into Baltimore in the playoffs.
I would like to see that. Joe Flacco
Yes.
with the Browns go in and beat the Ravens. Oh,
So,
Make sure it's not past his bedtime. Give him one of those afternoon games. Let him get home and go to bed. 6, 7 o'clock.
So to answer your question, Brandon, it is not possible for the Eagles to play with LA unless the the Eagles win the division, which it may happen. All the Cowboys
Could
have to
happen.
do all the Cowboys have to do is beat the Commanders. That's not a hard task.
Hey,
And then-
who's the quarterback for the Commanders this week?
Sam Howell.
Oh, Howell's back.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But and then so the Rams have to win, and the Packers have to lose, and the Rams have to lose, Seahawks have to win, I believe, and no, they cannot get the 7th seed. The Rams cannot get the 7th seed, so they are not going to be playing the Eagles until at least the divisional round.
So there's a chance.
There's a chance.
So you're saying
very small
there's a chance.
A small chance, but there's a chance. Oh, wait. Okay, I found it. 49ers have to beat the Rams. Seahawks have to beat. Actually, that game doesn't really matter. The Saints have to beat the Falcons. Seahawks have to beat the Cardinals, and the Packers have to beat the Bears, which puts the Packers at the 6th seed, the Rams at the 7th seed, and then the Cowboys have to lose to the Commanders, and then the Giants or the Eagles have to beat the Giants, putting the Eagles at 2 seed, the Rams at 7 seed, and then if Stafford, I think they're just resting Stafford because they already made the playoffs, so that's not going to happen. But if it does, this is the likely scenario.
That was very
All right.
convoluted. I don't know if I followed all of it, but I'm just glad there's a chance. And yeah, I wouldn't say the Cowboys have completely won their division yet. They had so much help this last week to get their win over the Lions. But, are they home this week again?
No, they're in Washington.
Well, see, they could lose.
Mhm.
It's only if they're home that the refs are giving them every
While we're
call.
talking about these teams, these playoff teams, and before we head into our weekly review, our recurring guest, SN Elite, our Jaguars fan, asked, boys, do the Jaguars still have a chance? And
Man,
the answer is yes. The answer
unfortunately, the answer is yes. I'm a Colts fan.
Mhm.
Jags fans, you probably still have a chance. And unfortunately, there was a great opportunity for the Colts to somehow grab this win and be in charge, and they just would not take it. Would not. Neither would the Houston Texans. Everybody's just in the AFC South is just losing. Everybody has a chance to really distance themselves, but I think the Jags do still have a chance, and I'm just hoping the Colts make it as a 7th seed by beating the Texans, and that's not even a given. We're going to talk about that later too. But
Okay,
wait, who
so-
did the Jags play this week?
The Titans. So for the Jaguars
yeah.
have a chance. All right. So let's put this in scenario. The Jaguars lose to the Titans. If either the Colts, either one of them is going to win unless they tie. So the Colts or Texans win, that means they're the division winner. The Ravens have to beat the Steelers, who the Ravens are resting Lamar. So for this to happen, for them to have a chance at a wild card, if they don't win the division, the Titans would have to win. Texans or Colts win the division, and then the Ravens have to beat the Steelers. That's the only way they get in if they don't win the division.
So you're saying for them to get the 7th seed,
The Rams,
they'll
the Ravens
either-
have to beat the Steelers. Yes.
they'll either win the division by beating the Titans, which I think they will, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Fortunately for you, unfortunately for me. Minshew Mania, that's right. Crazy for the Colts. Hey, he's won more with the Colts than he did with the Jags,
Mhm.
in his first year, which I didn't think we would be at this point when Anthony Richardson went down. I thought, okay, we're going to hopefully get some wins, and we'll just see what next year looks like. But we've got ourselves in a position. Minshew Mania is happening right now, Minshew Mania, and I hope it continues. I hope he at least gets us to a 7th seed. Beat Texans, right? So I can say it's okay, Jags, if you win the division. I would like to win the division, but as long as we get in the playoffs, I'm happy for now. If we win the division, 4 is playing 5. That's the Browns.
Yeah, I was going to actually bring that up real quick. Let me look at that real quick. So if you guys win the division, wait, sorry, 1 second. You guys
I'll just
win
tell
the
you,
division.
we're going to win. We're going to play the Browns because they've already clinched number 5. And so if we
That is
come
correct.
in 7, we're going to be playing the number 2 seed, which is possibly the
Bills. Or
Dolphins.
The Bills are the Dolphins. Bills are
Right.
Dolphins. Whoever wins that game. So
N-
honestly,
I don't
if
know
you
what-
want I
I
would
don't know
rather
which
play the
game's
Dolphins.
easier.
I'd rather play the Dolphins. I really
Yeah,
would.
right now without the Chubb in there, and I don't know. It's hard to say.
You better be hoping
Hard
for
to
that wild card spot, honestly.
Browns
Although
right
you
now
wanna
are
keep-
looking tougher and tougher every
Yeah, with
every
Flacco
week.
in. That
Well, it's
defense
their
has always been
defense.
tough. Flacco's been
Yeah.
finally yeah.
Okay, well let's we'll get to those games here in a minute. We'll get to some more of this talk, but first let's look at our predictions at the beginning of the year. Again, we made some predictions about all the games, not knowing who was going to be injured. How did it end up, Josh?
So we last time we recorded, we were 11-5 for week 15. We did not record last week where we were 7-9, so we dropped off 4 games. And then this past weekend, week 17, we went 8-8, so we're back up a little bit, which is a good thing because that officially puts us in the realm of not having losing season, because all the worst we can do now is 138 and 136, which is
Big question is, where's Adam rank?
Oh, I gotta look at. I'll look at that next week at the end of the season.
Okay, we're gonna like hopefully
We'll go over all of our teams, and
beat him.
I do know he's very accurate on the Commanders. He had the Commanders at 5-12 or whatever, so he's pretty accurate there.
Yeah, but he had the
Well, he
Colts
had-
at
he
like
had the-
3.
He had the Bears at 12-5.
He's a Bears
Okay.
fan, yeah, but
He's got some problems to overcome, even though he had the Commanders right. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that next week. We'll tell you how we did in comparison to Adam Rank. But we right now are sitting at 138 to 120, right? 138 wins to 120 losses. Not great, but still a winning record. Let's go and look back a little bit at this last week. This last week, I'll start. Colts played the Raiders. And it was going to be one of those games that was scary all the way through. We did win by 3 points. It was never like super comfortable all the way up to that win. I did not get a chance to pick an MVP. Josh picked for me. He said Gardner Minshew, and I'll say, sure, fine. Was there anybody who was great?
no, I mean,
No, I mean,
it was either Minshew or Taylor for me, honestly.
Alec Pierce had a good long reception. You know, it was good to see Michael Pittman Jr. back in there. Jonathan Taylor was getting some yards, but nobody was like great. It's just we were all like adequate.
You were,
So
yeah, you were spreading the love, basically.
spreading the love. And the truth is, hopefully, we look a little better this next week because we're going to need it. We need to beat CJ Stroud and the Texans. And the truth is, it's crazy that I'm a little more fearful of CJ Stroud and the Texans than I was of the Raiders. Although at the beginning of the year, part of our problem with our predictions were we thought the Texans and the Raiders were going to be horrible. Texans have not been horrible. Raiders, debatable. They weren't as bad as we said they would be. So
We did get
Gardner
it right
Minshew and
that
the Colts
McDaniels
came
would
in.
be fired.
Yeah, we didn't know he'd be fired when he was. I'm glad he was fired. I don't like McDaniels, and he'll probably be back with the Patriots next year. We'll see
If
but-
Belichick is there.
if Belichick, and that's a big if right
That's
now,
big, yeah.
which we all are leaning away from, right? For some,
I'm
for
glad I
whatever
started
reason.
that. I'm glad I started that.
Yeah. So Colts over Raiders. All I can say is good. And now here we are. We had our chance. It was back with the Bengals, that game. We had our chance right then to secure this division, and we just would not take it. We let Browning or whatever his name is look like an amazing quarterback. And because of that, now here we are sitting at week 18, and we have to win to get in. Yeah, there's, I think, one scenario where we could tie
The Ravens
and
win.
things would happen. The truth is we could tie and we would be in because we have a better record than the Houston Texans. But there's one record or one scenario, I think, where we tie and the Jags lose and we still make it somehow.
I think it's if you guys tie and the Steelers lose.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is we need to win. Need to win, get in. Lose, out. Ties, let's not even talk about them.
The real
Don't
question
like 'em.
is, if you guys win or lose, no matter what happens, I guess we're tie. Are you proud of what this team has done?
The Colts team, are we proud that they made the playoffs? Yes. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, we were expected to get like 4 wins. I think I had us at a few more wins to
We had,
start the
we had
season,
7-10.
but not playoff bound. The hard part is once you're playoff bound, you're not getting a good first round pick anyway. So all of our chances at Marvin Harrison Jr. are out the window. There's too many teams ahead of us that like him. That's not going to happen for us. So now I want us to go as far as we can. The worst part about this year for me is Anthony Richardson did not get the experience that he needed to get. He needed to get these games in and throw all the interceptions and have all the losses. That's what I expected to happen this year. Instead, CJ Stroud got himself a good year of quarterbacking, and Trevor Lawrence has been getting better once he gets over his injury stuff. And then even Will Levis got in there and did some stuff, although he didn't really kind of hold. Is he still this quarterback?
I think he's injured right now.
Yeah. So, next year is going to be a little bit different. We're going to see if Anthony Richardson can get in there and do some wins. So, am I proud of them? Yeah, I'm proud of them. Do I expect us to push all the way to the Super Bowl? No. It would be a great and amazing not disappointment. It'd be a great and amazing thing if they did. But I expect that even if they make the playoffs, they're probably going to get knocked out their first game.
You never know. I mean, they beat the Ravens, and anything's possible.
They did. They were
right.
one of the teams that beat the Ravens, and they could come in and win one game, and I would be proud of them. Yes. Let's go on. Josh, Commanders. You've been saying I'm going to talk about this later now, 2 or 3 times. So let's talk about it.
I'll talk about that. The whole Sam Howell thing. So Brissett was started. I don't remember what game didn't start, but he came in at some point in let me look at the Commander schedule because
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. It was the he came in during the Dolphins. No, not Dolphins. Sorry. Yeah, Dolphins game. Played for the fourth quarter. He came in during the it was the Rams game. He came in during the Rams game, and we almost came back. Okay. He came in during the Jets. Sam Howell started again against the Jets. Brissett came in, almost beat them. Thank goodness we didn't. And then so Ron Rivera, in Ron Rivera fashion, he's about to wait 5 anyway. So in Ron Rivera fashion, trying to win. And the joke for this is he's like, I don't know his actual record, but let's just say he's 26, 27, and 1 in record wise. It's a lot more than that basically. But he's one win away from being fully positive through his whole career. So the joke is for the Reds through Commanders fans on Reddit and Twitter is like he probably just wanted to start Brissett because he wanted that even record throughout his career. But he started Brissett, and then Thursday came, and it's like, oh, Brissett has a hamstring injury. We're gonna, and Friday came and Saturday came, and we're like, we're starting Sam Howell, and I'm like, did Brissett really have a hamstring injury? I don't believe so. I think this was a whole move where it was like. Josh Harris saw how the fans were upset with this, and he's like, Ron Rivera, you better start Sam Howell. Your job's, as much as your job's done with by the end of the year, your job's done by the end of this game, or basically. Or
does that
like
really matter at this point?
It doesn't. But I don't think there was a hamstring injury. I truly don't think there was a hamstring injury.
So you think if Sam Howell gets hurt in the game that Brissett will come in, or you think he's out? And who's your other quarterback?
I have no idea. I really don't.
No
I know
idea.
we signed Jake Fromm, who was like a really good player at Georgia, to the practice squad this past week, but I don't know if he's our backup, our third string, or if there's another guy on that, on that roster.
All this to say, you think Sam Howell should be quarterback next year, but it seems like the organization and a lot of the media and maybe some fans are like, no, we need somebody else.
I'm honestly, I can't really tell you right now. I mean, Sam Howell weeks 1 through 13 were always up and down. It was great. It was okay. It was bad. It was great, and it was okay. It was never bad. Besides that game against the Bills where you threw 4 interceptions and no touchdowns, it was never this bad. And weeks 14 through 17 now, it's been very bad. I don't know if it's Eric Bieniemy switching his play calling up, or the offensive line just got worse, or we're just playing tougher teams against the Rams, the Dolphins, the 49ers, and the Jets. The defense-wise, Jets aren't a good team. Defense is great, though. So I don't know if it's that, and he's just a learning quarterback. But what I really want to see, honestly, if they stick with Sam Howell, what I want to see is we have a second pick right now. So what I want to see is we trade down a little bit, get some capital, a second-round pick maybe, or third-round pick or whatnot, for let's just say pick number 6. Switch trades pick number 2 for pick number 6 or whatever. Somebody drafts their future quarterback, and we draft a left tackle. And I want to see if Sam Howell is continuing to be the guy next year, we don't draft a quarterback. I want to see Ron Rivera out. I've been saying that all year. But honestly, at this point, I want to see Eric Bieniemy out, and it's not because he's his play calling. It kind of is, but Eric Bieniemy is so bad at incorporating the run into the play calling, where we're passing on first, second, third down, and we're not running on second and one. Where let's say we get a first down pass to 9 yards. We're not running on 2nd and 1. We're passing again, and I'm like, what is this guy thinking? You have Brian Robinson, who is a very not mobile, but he's a very power horse back, and you run that up the middle, you're going to get that yard, and you're going to get that first down. Leave some stress on the quarterback for a third and whatever situation. And so, it is my belief that if we get a new offensive coordinator next year, I want to see what Sam Howell can do with that, with a left tackle, and a good left tackle, a good offensive line, and a new offensive coordinator. Or
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you fire your head coach and you fire your offensive coordinator and you bring in new, they're going to get a new quarterback too.
But like I said earlier, 2 weeks ago, whatever, I'm completely open to whatever management wants to do, whatever coaches wants to do, because I want to see my team win. But I do believe in second chances, and I do believe in people being in the right situation. Because if you remember, for example, Josh Rosen was in a terrible situation his rookie year in Arizona. And the next year, Cliff Kingsbury came in and he's like, this guy's not it. I'm drafting Kyler Murray. And he never was given a real chance. I believe that if Josh Rosen had an actual chance, he would have been an okay quarterback. Same with Justin Fields. He's been playing all right this season. He's been playing better than last year. What's his name? Adam Getsy. Terrible play calling. Screens left and right. Never a mix of play callings. And that's what's holding his development back, Justin Fields. So obviously, if he gets a new play caller, or at least a coach with an offensive mind, which I don't think they're firing Matt Eberflus anymore. That defense is really elevated. But if they get an offensive play caller that is competent, I think Justin Fields can skyrocket, whether he's traded to Atlanta or traded to whatever. If he gets a new, an offensive coordinator that's competent, I believe Justin Fields can be really good in the league. And same with Sam Howell. If he gets an offensive coordinator that is competent and knows what he's doing, I believe he can be really, really good in the league. And I'm honestly, my final statement is whatever management, whatever coaches want to do, I'm fully with it, because I want to see my team win. That's what I'm going to finally say.
Okay. Your MVP.
Right.
Yes, my
Terry
MVP,
McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin, only guy that scored a touchdown. So
before we go on to the Packers, we're going to go to the Packers. But real quick, I just saw a comment by SN Elite in there talking about like, hey, who's your starter next year? Because Minshaw's been playing great. Would he be the starter next year? Especially if the Colts go on a little run, who do you start next year? I'm going to say, as a Colts fan, love Minshew. Love him as a backup, but I really want Anthony Richardson. I want that magic. And he's not going to probably look as good, but he needs that experience. He needs to be in there throwing and getting used to game speed and hopefully staying healthy. So even if it's a little bit of a step back from Minshew, especially if we go on a little run, it's going to be hard. But I still think most Colts fans would say start Anthony Richardson, start getting him up to speed, because he's the future of our franchise. He is the franchise going forward, and we've got to get him acclimated and get him going. And I don't know, I kind of said that a little bit when I was talking about the Colts, but that's my opinion. And I think most Colts fans would agree. We love Minshew. It's great to have somebody like that as a backup. I love Uncle Rico. And I would want no other backup quarterback in the league. I would love for him to stay our backup for a long time, just like Jim Sorgi was Peyton Manning's backup. I could see that going for a long time, but I need Anthony Richardson out there. I need him to start, being that, defining quarterback for the Colts that Peyton Manning was, that Andrew Luck was. We need Anthony Richardson to be that. So I just wanted to jump back to that real quick, because I just now saw that comment pop up there. And so we're gonna move on. Brandon, what about the Packers this last week? You guys kind of in that same situation. You've had chances to grab the golden ring and say we're in, and you just keep denying that, just like the Colts have. But now, where are you?
Not we don't keep denying that. Joe Barry keeps denying that.
Yes, that's correct. Let me hop back to your previous comment, Matthew. As a Packers fan, I will not say anything about having your starting quarterback on the bench. I'll leave it there. But I'll get into.
Here's the difference. You had your quarterback sitting there watching watching Aaron Rodgers, who has arguably been one of the best. And to learn, just as Aaron Rodgers learned, that's a whole different situation than having a backup quarterback in there and putting your starting quarterback on the bench. That's just different.
All right. Well, Packers this past week, very good, very, very good. And I was texting with Josh about this. The part that's concerning to me about this game is the defense looked great. And you might be thinking, Brandon, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. You've been saying how scary this defense is for a while, and it was. And that's the problem. Is I don't want our defensive coordinator, similar to how the Bears are doing right now. And so their second half of the season offense has looked decently competent, which might help their offensive coordinator stay in his role. Now, if they fire head coach, I think offensive coordinator goes with that, and they're going to bring in a whole new house. We'll see in the offseason what Chicago management decides to do.
I will
If
just
Joe
say
Barry-
real quick, my brother-in-law, who is a Bears fan, is convinced that they will not fire Eberflus this year. I was like, I don't know. I talked to him about it. I'm of the opinion that they will, but continue.
So Joe Barry's kind of in that similar mind as Luke Getsy. And Luke Getsy, former Packers coach, a guy I know all too well, that I have a lot of respect for. Joe Barry needs to go. It's this guy's time. You cannot be out there only hoping to stop one style of offense, and every time you stop that one style of offense, you get credit for everything. You got to be a bit more diverse than that. You got to be able to go out there and stop everything. And the one mock-up I saw on Twitter that really excited me, that I don't know how well this would play out, but if Al Harris came back as our defensive coordinator, former Packers legend, that would be phenomenal. And I know we've seen short stints of players coming back and coaching here or there. Dan Campbell's probably the most famous version of that in the modern day era. Former Lions player, went back to be the head coach of his team, and now the Lions are really good, and he's a coach of the year candidate.
Yep.
So Dan Campbell's an easy person to point at and say, he did it. Look at that. I like Jeff Saturday and what Jeff Saturday did. I thought that was fantastic. And I think a lot of Colts fans also like that. The management, obviously not so much, because he's no longer your coach. Al Harris, I think, would be a very, very fun thing to play with. And honestly, can you do any worse than Joe Barry? Like, it's going to be an improvement. Maybe that's the Packers' next move. We took Joe Barry out of the clutches after he went through multiple teams. He was with Washington. He was with Detroit during their 0-16 season. He was their defensive coordinator. Maybe Jack Del Rio is our next defensive coordinator, which would be awful. Well, all of us would hate that. If Matt Eberflus gets fired and wants to be a DC again, I'd take him. I would take
as a DC. He was good.
Yeah,
he's not. But looking at it this way, like, he's not the one calling the offensive plays. Matt Eberflus isn't. But he's calling ever since that guy got, I don't know what, cut, suspended, whatever, really let go. The defensive coordinator, Alan Williams for the Bears, like 8 weeks ago. He's been calling the defensive plays, and defense has been playing like almost lights out, like top 10 defense for the Bears. And so if he's calling the plays as a head coach, and you have a competent offense coordinator in that role calling the plays, the Bears can be very dangerous. So,
and that's who you play next week, right?
Yeah,
it is. And so,
but anyway,
we go into Sunday football. Chicago comes to town, and here's the part that scares me, that I was talking to Matthew about and texting with Josh a little bit. If the Bears score 35 points, I don't care if the Packers win or not, Joe Barry needs to be fired at the press conference after the game. That LaFleur gets up there. Yeah, this guy's not what we need right now. All the best wishes. You say it very publicly, politically correct. You know, we appreciate everything that Barry's done for us.
If you win and are heading into the playoffs, do you fire your DC heading into the playoffs?
No.
So even if they score 35 points on you guys and you score 38 and win, you keep him till after the year.
We keep him and then cut him as soon as the season is over. The moment the season finishes, this is honestly the conversation I'd have with Joe Barry as an owner. Joe, we think you're okay, more mediocre. If you can get the defense to a point where we don't have any points scored and we win the Super Bowl, you can keep your job next year. If that doesn't happen, good luck.
There's a clip I sent to Brandon. It was I believe you've probably seen this movie Matthew, from The Rock, the movie with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. and it was the president speaking. He was like, "This is the toughest decision I've had to make." There's been and it was Frank talking about Frank Hummel, and I overcasted that with like a text saying Joe Barry, and he was like, "We're not acting against terrorism because terrorism is et cetera, et cetera." And he was like, "This is the toughest call I've had to make. Launch the missiles." And instead of launching missiles, it's rest the starters against the Bears so he looks terrible. The defense looks terrible and they can fire him.
Oh man, I think it'd be funny if the moment that they know they're losing, even if they make the playoffs, like let's say they're in the a minute and 36 seconds left and they're far enough behind they cannot make it. The other team's getting ready to go into victory formation. I think that's when Matt LaFleur runs over to that sideline reporter and says, "Hey, I'd just like to say Joe Barry's fired." Like actually, the first possible moment they could.
This is what I do. The moment you can't win the game, you make the phone call that goes up to the booth where Joe Barry is, you're fired. And then have the cameras on Joe Barry and watch him walk out. That's it. That's the way.
At least you don't hold any ill will toward Joe Barry.
What's going to happen is if they do that, hey, you're fired. They're losing 35-7 or something. You're fired, halftime, end of the game, third quarter, whatever. Joe Barry's going to come down from the press conference box, whatever. He's going to pull up to do it. Antonio Brown, pull off the shirt, start dancing on the field, and then he's going to walk off.
Yeah, I can see him doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to mention here. I think this might be my MVP of the season, and I told Josh this too. I'm taking Jordan Love. There was a bunch of controversy around him in the postseason, getting into this season, ever since he was drafted. Nothing against Jordan. It's just the position he was in, coming in underneath Aaron, a Hall of Fame quarterback. And so for Jordan to come out and do what he has done this season with the group he has, in my eyes, it's extremely impressive. We don't have big name receivers. We have the cheapest receiver room in the NFL, the youngest team in the NFL, which is great news for us. If everyone keeps progressing at the same rate they are, this team's going to look really good in 2-3 seasons. But Jordan Love coming in and showing poise in the pocket, making some Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre style throws, and really telling people that I'm here to play football and I can play it really well, is very, very good for us Packers fans. And right now, in the current standings of touchdown completions, Dak Prescott is number 1 at 32. Brock Purdy is number 2 at 31. Jordan Love is number 3 at 30. Jordan Love has also had a better season in his first time as an overall starter than any Chicago Bears quarterback in the history of their franchise. Any of them. So you can say what you want. I think his stats as well in terms of passing touchdowns and also exceed what Justin Fields has done in passing touchdowns in his first 3 seasons combined.
Who do you think will end up being the better quarterback? And I have a feeling I know your answer. Him or CJ Stroud?
Jordan Love.
How could I expect any different? Right?
To be honest, if I was actually going to break this down, I'd need to watch more Texas games. I don't. It just complete transparency. I basically turn on the Packers game, maybe Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and that's it. So if you're not playing in one of those 3 games, I likely am not watching your game.
Or Saturday.
So I've seen enough. I've seen enough Jordan Love to know that I'm comfortable having him under center a few more seasons, and I think that's a safe thing to say.
Yeah, I think you'll do fine. Now, will you elevate to like best in the league, Aaron Rodgers sort of? I don't know if that'll happen soon.
It depends on what else gets put around him and what development happens. I think he has the arm talent, and he's made some incredible throws that should not have been completed, but were, and has tortured some defenses and also not looked great against others. So I think if we get a more experienced group around him, this team's going to look pretty good. It's a team, if I was Devontae Adams, I'd look at wanting to be traded to.
You think?
he's going to be a Jet, but I think he would also look good in the green and gold. So
I'll do a,
that's
I'll do
my official
jersey
wording.
swap
On,
later.
yeah, thanks for that, Josh. Yeah, throw the jersey swap up there. But I do have very high hopes for what Jordan Love can do in his career, provided that he stays healthy. Going into this week against the Bears, if we win, we're in the playoffs. It's as straightforward as that. If we lose, there's a bunch of other stuff that needs to happen for us to get in. I think the Bears are officially eliminated after Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
Because they needed a tie between Minnesota and Green Bay for them to have a chance, is I believe what the announcers said.
Mm-hmm.
So go at Lambeau, have Chicago come to town and win. I like our odds. With the way Jordan Love's been playing recently, I think it's pretty good. And the opposing defenses, have no idea who to cover. Everyone's just on an equal playing field all around, and all of them can at least make mid-level plays. And so if you get, and Peyton Manning talked about this a lot when he was in Indianapolis, is my goal wasn't the touchdown. My goal was just get a first down and never get to third down.
Mm-hmm.
First down, never get to third down. First down, never get to third down. And over the course of a decade, that turned out to the greatest offensive decade we've ever seen in NFL history.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the approach that Jordan Love is taking right now. And I know him and Peyton Manning had met for a day in the offseason. And I imagine that's one of the big things they talked about.
That was the only thing he said to him.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Yeah. They sat in silence the rest of the time.
Just sat and looked at each other.
Yeah. So it's very similar to what we're doing right now. And we're using everything we have. So, Tucker Kraft, 3rd round pick, Brian Gutekunst, horrible with 3rd round picks, made this one actually almost work. It's right there. Right there. And
guys,
Jaden
here's
Reed,
what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit our Blake Harris corner just real quick. Then we're going to talk about these next games coming up. But I do want to just quickly say who we think will be in the 7 spots of playoff after this week.
Right.
Who we think will be there. Right. But first, let's hit these. Lions got robbed. I think we all know the really bad thing the ref did there. Now, the announcer's like, oh, it doesn't matter. He was uncovered anyway on the line. But that was just horrible play. I feel bad for Dan Campbell. I think the Lions got more calls than just that one that went their way as I watched that game. I hate the Cowboys. I'm just going to say it out there. But this is a good Blake Harris corner. Blake Faith is a huge Cowboys fan, and they're in the playoffs, and they got a win there.
And
Ravens,
and put this in there too. Go on YouTube and watch Dan Campbell's press conference. Just
it was great.
Go,
I like
go
how
do
he
that.
just he said they said he didn't check in and we didn't get the touchdown. That's what they said. He wads up that paper.
So I think Bill Belichick, that thing.
Yeah,
it was great because he can't talk about him. He'll get fined.
Yeah,
he can't say anything against the refs. But they're so bad. They're so bad. Ravens destroyed the Dolphins. They got the number 1 seed, and Bradley Chubb for the Dolphins tore his ACL. So that's why Josh was saying at the beginning of earlier in this podcast that if he were the Colts, he would be shooting for that 7th seed to get to play the Dolphins, possibly. But it might end up
Not
being
even
the
that,
Buffalo Bills,
because the Dolphins have never played good against competent teams. They never have. Like maybe a couple of times, but a lot of their wins have come against negative or under 500 teams, and you'll find out.
We don't know.
What,
yeah, we don't know if they're going to be in that 2nd seed or not. So we don't know. Let's look ahead here. Mike Tomlin clinched his 17th straight non-losing season and still has a shot at the playoffs, or is that right? I think he does.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. The Colts have to actually. They have to tie. The Colts and Texans tie, and the Steelers win.
And this is the exact position Brandon Harris said we'd be in the offseason.
He did.
I'm just going to point that out. That's why it's in the Blake Harris corner.
In the Blake Harris corner. Blake Harris. They're sitting in the 9 seed right now. They're on the bubble at the ninth place. So, yeah, they're definitely still there. And he's got his 17th winning season. Chiefs clinched the 8th straight AFC West title. The good thing for that, for me, I needed the Chiefs to win so that the Bengals didn't have a chance to get in there and knock us out in some fashion, because the Bengals beat us earlier in the year. So for a rare moment, Matthew was rooting for the Chiefs and against the Bengals. You will not see that happen very often in my life, because I don't like the Chiefs. I do like the Bengals, but I like the Colts more than anything. So that was what was going on there. 49ers did clinch the number 1 seed and got the bye after the Cardinals upset the Eagles. And so we have 49ers clinching the number 1 seed. Let's see. We got the week 18 preview here. Let's
We're going to
go
go
ahead.
over our 7 teams, right?
What?
We're going over 7 teams, playoff teams, right?
Before the preview or after?
That's you. That's up to you.
I say let's hit the preview first.
Okay.
We got the Texans at the Colts. And I'm just going to say right now, this is my marquee game of the week. I know we get to that later. This is Matthew's marquee game of the week. This one matters. And it does matter to a lot of different teams, what happens with the Colts and the Houston Texans. And it matters for the AFC South in some sense, depending on what happens with the Jaguars game. So Texans, Colts, what do I think is going to happen? Man, I'm afraid to even postulate. But I'm going to have to say that I want the Colts to win. So I'm going to say the Colts are going to win because I want to speak it into existence. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think CJ Stroud is becoming a pretty good quarterback, and it's all going to fall down to our defense, how well we do this week. Defense, now's your time to step up. Score prediction, I'm going to say it's going to be something in the 30s for both teams. That's 35. High. That's a high-scoring game. There you go, 35-31.
I just did this based off like quick math. 5 touchdowns is 35, and 4 touchdowns and a field goal is 31.
I don't know that either of our defenses will allow that, but as long as the Colts come out on top, I'm okay if that ends up being in the 20s or even lower. Josh, what do you got for Cowboys Commanders?
Well,
is this your upset of the week?
No, you'll find out. But oh wait,
I would like it if it was, because I would like the Cowboys not to get the number 2 seed.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is I know all faith in the Cowboys on this one, and that pains me to say it because as many times as if the Commanders are 0-16 at this point, or 0 let's say 14, and that for some reason they play the Cowboys 2 weeks in a row, you as a Commanders fan, you always want to beat the Cowboys, but in this scenario, you don't, because that means you might go from pick number 2 to pick number 5 or whatever. So my heart wants the Commanders to lose this game, as much as it pains me to say that, because they are the Cowboys. And as much as I think they will win the game, because it is the Cowboys and they're playing for that number 2 seed instead of, the Eagles, and they're playing for the number 2 seed with the Eagles, if that makes sense. So they're fighting for it. So they're going to fight hard. And I think it's going to be like a 35 to 7 win. Right? Sorry, not 30. They put 10 points against the 49ers. I'll say 35 to 13, 35-13 or 14, depends on. I'll just say 14 to make it easier. 35-14 Cowboys.
And
what about the Packers, Brandon?
I think the Packers win this game. I'm going 31-21. I'm going to say it's going to be 28-21. 2 minutes left. Packers kick a field goal, go up 2 scores, and Bears turn the ball over at the end to finish the game.
Not going to end on a doink of any sort. Okay. The Bears coming up this week. That's always a favorite game of Brandon's. So having said that, let's look at what we think is going to be the seven people in on each side after this week. I'm gonna pull up the AFC South here, and I'm gonna put it on the screen here. Let me just share this. Share my screen. Let's put. So
a reminder, the
okay.
Let me think. So the no team besides the NFC, the only seed that has been secured is number 1 seed, 49ers. We only have to get 2 through 7, and then the Ravens
have clinches, knowing they're in, but
we don't have seeding.
But seeding, right?
Seeding,
so we
49ers.
Yep. We're gonna let's actually start with the AFC.
We know the Ravens have 1 and the Browns have 5, and then the Chiefs have 3. Well, actually, the Chiefs have 3. If they,
1, 3, and 5 are settled. We got the odd numbers except for 7. So here we go. 1, Right now, it is Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, Browns sitting
That's
in. Sitting in. They know they're in somewhere. Then we got in the hunt at 9-7, Jaguars. Bills at 10-6 because Miami right now. Miami's at 11-5. Okay, so that could all switch up if the Miami loses and Bills, which they play each other. So we'll see what happens there. Colts at 9-7, but then on the bubble you have the Texans at 9-7 and the Steelers at 9-7 as well. Everyone else eliminated. So, with all that being said, what do you think is going to be our order? Our first, we know Ravens number 1. Our first choice is Dolphins or Bills at number 2.
Bills. Bills are 2.
You think the Bills beat? What about you, Brandon?
I like Dolphins.
You think the Dolphins will still beat the Bills with Bradley Chubb out?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
and I go for that because no one talks about this whole season how the Bills have not been the Bills we expected. And it's really just been Josh Allen holding up a team. And if the rest of the team didn't show up, it was a complete crap fest. The one game where the entire team showed up was against the Cowboys.
I did mention that this year, that I thought the Bills were not what everybody thought they would be. I also think the Dolphins are going to pull out a win here, keep number 2. 3, Chiefs already settled. We know that. 4, you're looking at Jags, Colts, Texans. And Jags play Tennessee. Colts play Houston. And so it really comes down to Jags. If they win, they've got this spot against the Tennessee. If they lose, it's going to be one of those other 2 teams who play each other, because one of them is going to win. So who do you think is going to be in number 4? Let's start with Brandon on this one.
Houston.
Ooh, not what I was expecting. Josh.
I'm going with the Jaguars. This game, Colts and Texans, is so hard for me to decide. And the Jaguars game is so easy for me to decide. We don't even know who's starting quarterback for Titans right now. Is it? I don't know if Ryan Tannehill's. I don't even know if he's starting. So it might come down to Malik Willis because Will Levis is out. So going into that and relying heavily on Derrick Henry with a defense that actually is pretty good with the Jaguars. Sorry, I'm picking the Jaguars to win the division.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the Jags will win against Tennessee. I wish they wouldn't. I wish Mike Vrabel stood up one last time and said, we're going to be tough one last game, beat those Jags. But I think the Jags are going to win that, unfortunately. So we will come back to the AFC South in just a second. We got 2 people for the Jags, so we're gonna say the Jags are going to make that, even though Houston has been proffered up. Browns have secured number 5 regardless. Here's the thing. Whoever wins that AFC South is going to play the Browns. That's going to be a tough game. So I'm not really, like we talked about earlier, I'm not really upset wherever we end up. So that's 5. Then we got 6, 7, and 8. Or 6 and 7.
7.
Yeah, there's only 2 more spots left. So in spot 6, who do you think is going to make that spot?
That's where I'm putting the Dolphins, since I have the Bills winning.
I would agree with that.
I thought you guys said the Dolphins were winning.
Or yeah, we did say the Dolphins were winning. So I say Bills here.
What about you, Brandon? You said the Dolphins would win too.
Yeah, sorry. You put Bills in my thing.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So
you convinced me, Josh.
Convinced him just by typing it. You made it so.
And then I know Matt's last,
So I guess we're looking at Josh. Josh, do you think the Dolphins will be in 6th spot? Because we obviously think the Bills will, which would put the Dolphins.
The Dolphins have already clinched a spot. So if I say the Bills win this game, then the Dolphins are 6th seed anyway. So that's mathematically what has to happen.
I think for us too. Mm-hmm. So we're only looking now at 7th spot.
Wait a minute.
And
give me a second. Okay,
second being given.
So I'm just looking at this very quickly. So the Colts win. If the Colts either way, so the Steelers have to lose for the Bills to get the 7th seed. If the Bills lose, Steelers win, the Bills are out. If the Bills win, or the Bills lose and Steelers lose, then the Bills are 7th seed. So it's either 6 or 7, or 2 or 7 for the Bills.
2 or 7, you say?
I'll figure out the math later, honestly.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with my 7th seed. Since I have the Colts losing, that takes them, in my mind, out. But it still leaves the Jaguars with a good chance of being
Right.
in. So I'm putting Jaguars at 7.
I'm going to go ahead and say I think the Colts win. And I already said I thought the Jags win. So that
So
puts
wait.
the Colts at 7.
So you said the Colts, the Colts beat 7. Matt, Brandon, you said that if the Jags win, so if the Jags win, no matter what, then the division is won by the Jaguars. So that means that the Texans.
I
have
think
to
the
win.
Jaguars lose, but there's a bunch of other stuff that happens where they still make it in.
Okay, so then this is right. Okay, and so my 7th seed is the Colts. I'll figure this math out all later, honestly, tomorrow when I go through this whole editing process of the podcast and I make a graphic for this. But so a review quick. Barring any mathematical things that have to come up. Matthew, Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, Jaguars, Browns, Bills, Colts. Josh, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, Jaguars, Browns, Dolphins, Colts. And then Brandon, Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, Texans, Browns, Bills, Jaguars.
Yep.
Okay, so we all have different picks. That's an interesting. Usually by this time, we all feel very similar. Let's see what we think with the NFC. NFC, we know that the 49ers are getting the 1st seed and a bye. We know that. Number 2 is still up for grabs. Could be Cowboys, could be Philly, right? 3, the Lions. I believe that one. Could they still get the 2nd seed?
No. Wait. Lions, the Jaguars. Yes, they can. So the Giants and the Commanders have to win for that to happen.
Right, which is unlikely.
Yeah,
but Lions could end up if you had 2 crazy upsets, which would be freaky for the Giants and the Commanders to beat the Cowboys and the Eagles. So anyway, and then 4th seed is not on here at all. That's because that's the what is that? Is that the Buccaneers right now?
Yeah,
That's such a
NFC South.
Such a crazy team because the Falcons could still take that, right? Or the Saints. The Saints are the only ones that could take it. Falcons, I don't think. Oh, maybe
I think
they
Falcons
could.
are out.
Falcons are not out.
No,
Falcons, if the Panthers lose, or if the Panthers beat the Buccaneers, Falcons beat the Saints or the Falcons win the division.
Right. So Falcons, Saints, this is another one of those AFC South things. It's the South teams this year that are making things difficult.
Yep.
So we're still looking at what could happen in the 4th there. Then we got the 5th is right now the Eagles. And then the 6th right now is the Rams, which they are in somewhere. We don't know exactly where. In the hunt, we have the Buccaneers and the Packers sitting there. And then on the bubble at 8, 9, and 10, we are no, not at 8, 9, wherever they're at. We got Seahawks, Saints, Vikings, and Falcons.
Vikings are out.
Vikings are still in. I'm sitting here looking at on the bubble still in on NFL Network. There is some way it could happen where the Vikings would be in.
That out right now. I want to see this happening.
Because eliminated starts down here with Panthers, Cardinals, Commanders, Giants, Bears. This is the NFL website page.
Right. So for
Vikings
that to happen, Vikings have to beat Lions. Buccaneers have to beat Panthers, NFC wise. Cowboys actually they don't have an influence. So Vikings beat Lions, Buccaneers beat Panthers, Bears beat Packers, and Falcons beat Saints, and then Cardinals beat Seahawks for that to happen.
So it's an outside chance, but that's still a possibility. So let's do the same thing again. We're going to go through our orders. We know the first, 49ers. Who do you think is going to be in seed number 2 between Cowboys, Lions, and Eagles?
Cowboys.
I'm going to say...
I don't see the Cowboys losing to Washington.
I'm saying that.
Since I've called my upset of the week, Washington beats Cowboys, I guess I have to say
That's right.
Eagles here, even though I don't think that's highly likely. But if I had to look at either New York beating the Eagles or Washington beating the Cowboys, I think it'd be more fun to watch Washington beat the Cowboys, even though that's not what Josh wants.
And then Lions are all of our 3rd seeds.
Yep. Lions going for my 3rd seed.
I'm putting 4th seed. Buccaneers.
4th seed, you're going Buccaneers?
It's the winner of the NFC South.
Yeah,
Buccaneers
that's my pick too. Yep.
Yeah.
So if Saints beat Atlanta, And Buccaneers beat Carolina. Buccaneers are still in, right?
Yep. So this is what can happen. I'm going through the NFC South, all of it. Panthers beat Buccaneers. Saints beat Falcons. The Saints win the division. Falcons beat Saints. Panthers beat Buccaneers. The Falcons win the division. Saints beat Falcons. Buccaneers win the division, or Buccaneers beat Panthers. Falcons beat Saints. So basically, the Buccaneers win, they win the division. But if they lose, whoever wins the Saints versus Falcons game wins that division.
I don't think Carolina's going to put up that big of a fight looking at what they did last week. I think Buccaneers at 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Back to number 5.
5 Eagles.
Eagles.
I have to
So
say
you-
Dallas since
Yep.
I already
Yep.
made that choice. And then 6.
Rams.
Yeah.
Rams.
They're going to lose, but they're already locked in. Could they go to 7th?
Yeah, the Packers beat them. We have the tiebreaker, the head-to-head.
So Packers
Yeah, they
could go to
They
6.
could go to 6.
And
but
right now, I don't
I trust-
think the Rams are going to beat San Francisco. So I almost think Packers, unless I think the Packers somehow lose to the Bears, which would put Seahawks. Who could go into 6th?
So if you're saying the Panthers,
Saints?
if you're saying the 49ers beat the Rams, who could go into 7 or 6?
Packers, because Packers have the tiebreaker over the Rams.
If Packers win and Seahawks win, the Packers beat them. But if the Packers lose, the Rams go to 6, Seahawks go to 7. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Among a much more mathematical situation, but basically the simplest situation is Packers lose, Seahawks go to 7, Rams go to 6. Packers win, Rams go to 7, Packers go to 6.
I'm saying Packers win, so Packers at 6.
I'm undecided here. If I
Rams,
think the
7.
Bears are going to throw a crazy upset in here.
I picked it.
Don't do this to me, Matthew.
This is the
Don't do this
kind
to
of
me.
thing that would happen. Joe Barry has a
I'm
great
picking
game.
Crazier upset. I'll be
And then
honest.
the Bears come back and it just looks so bad the next week. Could that happen? Since I said the opposite of what Josh wanted, I'm going to continue and say the opposite of what Brandon wants.
Oh, no.
I'm going to say the Bears beat the Packers.
I have the same
Whatever
opinion.
that situation comes out at.
All right, so Bears beat Packers, and then the 49ers beat Rams.
So you're both looking. So you're both looking Rams, Seahawks.
That is exactly what I'm looking at.
You think that's going to happen? I was just doing the. I don't know that I necessarily think this is going to happen, but
I
there's
do have an
part of me that
explanation
just
for it.
feels
This
like
is-
it
is
might.
actually my upset, like upset of the week. That's my upset, which we'll get into in a minute. But so
Brandon's like, I hate you all.
our seeding: 49ers, all of it. They clinched the 1 seed. So Matthew's 2 through 7: Eagles, Lions, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Rams, Seahawks. My is 2 through 7: Cowboys, Lions, Buccaneers, Eagles, Rams, Seahawks. So basically the same, except Cowboys and Eagles are switched. Brandon's 2 through 7: Cowboys, Lions, Buccaneers, Eagles, Packers, Rams. So the most different.
Okay.
The most correct. That's what it is.
I had to say that because he said my Colts would lose. So there's no way I'm going to say his
I did.
Packers will win.
I did.
No way. If we don't have faith in each other, who do we have faith in? Not each other.
That's right.
So that is what we have for the playoff scenario. I'm going to stop this sharing here because that doesn't need to be up there. And let's quickly talk about what's going to be our marquee, my and manure, that kind of stuff. I already said my marquee, Colts, Houston. That for me is the marquee game with a lot of implications for a lot of people. Marquee guys?
I'm going Bears, Packers. Obvious.
There we go. We both are marquee in
I don't
our
have a game to
games.
pick like that. So I'm picking one with the most implications on the line because, well, of course, you guys win and you're in. So that is very high implications. But I'm picking Bills Dolphins. That's the only. I mean, a lot of these games are marquee if you look at them. If I'm looking like they're all a lot of them playoff implications or draft implications. Like I actually almost picked where's it at? Buccaneers Panthers or Falcons Saints, because if the Buccaneers lose for some reason, that's the winner of the division. I almost picked that, but I ultimately chose Bills Dolphins because I feel like nobody cares about the NFC South. I mean, that's like the manure division of the whole league. So for the Bills Dolphins to be there in like that's for the Bills to start so low or in the middle of the season and then come back to an all-time high right now, or not all-time, but a very high point. That's why I'm picking this game.
All right, who do you got for manure, Josh?
Jets at Patriots. No implications in the line for this game at all. No draft
I'm-
position, no nothing.
I'm doing Cowboys Commanders.
I looked at all of these different games, but I'm also going to say manure, Jets, New England. Just who cares, right?
Matthew, what's your my oh my?
My oh my was tough because I either had the Buffalo Miami, which is going to be a big one, or I think I'm going to go with Jacksonville, Tennessee, because that's going to be a big deal for Jacksonville fans.
Yeah.
In the lead in 7, out completely. Ooh, it's tough. I'm gonna go with that one, even though, but I think Buffalo Dolphins going to be a really great game.
Yeah, I'm going to say my oh my, Bills at Miami.
All right. My is the other game I just mentioned is Falcons at Saints, because I was either going to choose one and then pick the other for my, and I ultimately chose Bills and Dolphins because of the high stakes, and then nobody cares about the NFC South. So this is where the NFC South shines. It's going to be those that if the Buccaneers lose, then this is the game you're going to want to watch.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about our lock and our upset. Which one do we usually do first?
Lock.
Lock. Which one's your lock, Brandon?
I'm going Raiders over Broncos.
Raiders
Russ
over
Wilson is
Broncos.
out. Russ Wilson's out. I think they're done with their season, and Raiders have been looking very good to finish out the season since they fired McDaniels. So I think Raiders over Broncos.
I'm just going to jump out of order here. I'm going Philadelphia over New York. I think Philadelphia
It's a good
beats
one.
the Giants easily.
Yeah.
My lock, and then I'll go in my upset after, is Cowboys over Commanders. I mean, I'm hoping this happens because of the draft pick reason, but I don't see it. The Cowboys are playing for the 2 seed, so I don't see them like resting their starters or backing off in any sort of situation. Upset, mentioned it earlier. Bears over Packers. I just think that the Packers have too questionable of a defense, and the Bears offense is finally getting into check in some aspects of the game, whereas the Bears have a defense that can actually go against the Packers offense that is doing well. I haven't seen, in my opinion, a very good defense play the Packers in the last 8 or so weeks. And I feel like that they've taken advantage of that and won some games, and Jordan Love played bad against some of those bad defenses like the Raiders. And I feel like this is the defense that finally stumps the Packers. And yeah, I sent this to Brandon earlier, but it was that video of like, Packers, all you had to do was tie the game. We're going to come into Lambeau and grate all that cheese on you guys or whatever. And it was a TikTok video. But
I do have to say, Josh, I do think the Lions are a competent defense.
they're not top 10 though, in my opinion. And that's like the Bears aren't either, but they're very close and they're better defense than the Lions, in my opinion. They've been playing so well that I think this is going to give Jordan Love trouble. And I think that the Bears offense, who has been improving every week since like week 12, is going to give the Packers defense, which they don't have a defense at all. So enough trouble to make it a good game. And I think the Bears barely upset. I think it would be in Bears fashion overall to say, you eliminated us from the playoffs for not tying the game. We're going to come back next week and eliminate you guys.
Well, I'm going to jump in with my upset, Washington over Dallas. I think I already said that, and that's the bigger upset. If the Commanders beat Dallas, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I'm going to say Cardinals over Seahawks is my upset. Cardinals played very well last week against the Eagles. And I'd like to see them one more game, stick it to a divisional opponent.
All right, so that's our all of our games for the week. Where do we have anything left? That's it. All right. Well, guys, hey, everybody, thank you for joining us here on the Football Fandemic. We are excited about this week of games, the slate, and what could possibly happen. Join us next week when we're looking at the playoffs up close and personal here on the Football Fandemic.